Today I'm doing everything you shouldn't do if you want to keep your cameras safe. It's probably going to rain today and I'm on a beach, which, as you can imagine, is covered in dust. Exactly what you need to destroy the inner workings of your camera. Nonetheless, today we are going to be looking at the Sigma 150 to 600mm contemporary lens. This lens comes in at about £880. And if you want to buy it second-hand, you can get it for about £550. Today I'm going to be telling you my experience. Ow, I've got sand in my eyes.
It was at this moment I regretted choosing to film this video on a beach.
Today I'm going to be talking about my experience with this lens and whether I would recommend it to you or not, depending on the type of photography you are doing. As a wildlife photographer, I bought this lens as a budget option to be able to take photos of wildlife that is far away. And it's done a fantastic job. This lens is very sharp. The photo quality you can get is incredible. And if you want to take a look at some photos in detail, hop over to my Instagram page. The link is in the description. I'm at Toby Wood Photo, and you can see some of the photos that you can capture with this lens. One of my favorite things about this lens is its light weight. This lens comes in at 1.93 kilograms, so almost 2 kilograms. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a contemporary version of the lens. You can also buy the Sigma Sports version. That one weighs in at 2.8 kilograms, significantly heavier than this one. Why is that? Well, the reason for that is this lens has a plastic case. That means that admittedly the lens is less durable, and if you were to drop it, it'd be more likely to crack. However, it's much easier to use and carry around with you because it's lightweight. Have I experienced problems with that plastic casing? No, not really. I've bashed it quite a lot. Mine is looking quite beaten up. There's a lot of scratches. There's lots of kind of white wear and tear on it where it's been used, it's been loved, but the lens itself, fully functional. There's no chips, only kind of watermark damages and the like, and I'm very impressed about the build quality of this, despite the fact it is not a metal build. The other thing that's really handy when we're talking about the case is the lock. There's a little lock here which you can clip up and down. Lens creep is what happens when you have your lens on a strap, and as you're walking along, the lens will creep further and further down. It will open up and you'll come to pick it up and it will be at full extension, and you'll be like, why is that the case? Well, that's because as the lens is swinging, it will automatically open up and drop. This lens has a solution to that, and I think this is quite common on lenses nowadays, but when I was buying it, it wasn't so much. There's a lock button you can clip and it stops it from swinging down. This lens is also customizable. There are 4 buttons along the side. So autofocus is where the camera will focus for you. The camera will focus on whatever AF point the camera has. Manual override means that you'll have manual focus, you'll have full control of the focus of the camera, but if you want to, you can still override that and focus it electronically. Manual focus means you have to do it all manually using the wheels on the lens. Next we have the focal length. So there is a button for a full focal length. That means that the camera will focus on anything, no matter how close or far away it is. Then there is a switch for 10 meters to infinity. That means that the camera will only focus on things which are 10 meters away or out into the distance. So that's for things which are a long way away if you're trying to focus on them. Finally, there is a switch for 2.8 to 10 meters. So if you are doing people or animals which aren't quite so far away, this will focus on things between 2.8 meters and 10 meters. So why does the lens have these switches? It stops the lens from hunting. It means the lens knows the bracket at which it needs to focus in, and it makes it a quicker autofocus. Next we have the OS, the Optical Stabilization. There are again 3 switches. There is a switch for off, meaning you don't have to use the stabilization. All the camera shake you will see in the camera. That's great if you're using the camera on a steady tripod or gimbal. Next, there is mode 1. Mode 1 is general stabilization. This means that the camera will stabilize all directions at its best ability. Next, there is OS2. This only stabilizes in a panning motion. So if you're doing a sweeping shot of a bird in flight, it will stabilize that for you as you swing the camera. However, up and down, it won't stabilize. And finally, we have the custom switches. Now, in my experience with this camera, I have never customized these switches, and I believe there is a data plug-in thing where you do this. Honestly, I'm not that sure on how it works. So if you want to do that, I'm not the person to ask, but you can customize these settings on this lens should you want to. Another great feature of this lens is the lens foot mount. Now, as you can see, I'm holding it by this mount, and I often do because this mount is solid metal. It feels really nice to hold. It also means when you mount this camera on a tripod, it's balanced. You don't have to mount it by the camera. By mounting it on the foot, it will spread the weight and balance the camera better. Now, if you're on a ball head, it's still going to fall forward, especially at full extension. So you'll want to get a longer Arca Swiss plate so you can mount it about here. So that'll be about 15 centimeter mount plate to balance it out. Alternatively, you get a gimbal where again you can slide it back and forth to get proper balance, and that will depend on how extended your lens is. This foot is removable. You can untwist it and remove it. You can spin it all the way round, and it acts as a handy handle if you want to carry it without a strap. The Sigma lens also comes with lots of mounts, so whether you have a Nikon, a Canon, a Sigma, you can attach this to your camera. I have the Canon version here, and it's on the EF mount. And attached to it, I have my Canon 7D Mark II as a demonstrative camera to show the scale of what it's like with a camera. This is a large camera. If you have the 250D, this lens will look disproportionately large compared to your camera. Now, I bought this camera a couple of years ago, and the question is, would I still buy it now? In truth, yes, I would. When I was buying it, the debate was this camera or the Tamron camera, and after watching lots of reviews, doing lots of comparisons on where they're good at in their focal range, I wanted one which was good at a long focal range, which was lightweight and was in the budget that I could afford, and the Sigma was that camera. I honestly think that you could go for the Canon 600mm lens, for example, but the expense you're paying for the brand of Canon is probably not worth the quality you get in the Sigma. Now, Canon, if you're watching this, please send me one of your lenses so that I can do that comparison. I would have no problem there. But from my knowledge and my bank account, definitely appreciate this Sigma 150 contemporary lens. And I went for the contemporary lens because, again, when you compare the contemporary to the sports lens, people would say there was very little difference except for the build quality. The sports lens is quite a few hundred more than the contemporary lens, just for the fact it's cased in metal. Some argue it has a slightly quicker autofocus, but it all comes down to the lighting and the setting, and honestly, I don't think there's much in it. So the link for this lens will be in the description below if you want to check it out. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments down below. I'm sure other people will also be wondering the same questions as you, and pop over to my Instagram if you want to direct message me. And I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I'll see you in the next one.